everybody, it's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. So this is going to be my take on my video for the astrology of November 2022. And of course, we know that the eclipse season started on the 25th of October with a new moon in Scorpio, and then proceeds forward now to a full moon, which I'll speak about in a minute. We also have a new moon in Sagittarius. And just as a heads up, I would say the latter part of November 2022 will be much more positive, inspirational, and just filled with a little bit more joy than, say, the first part of November. All right, so when we look at the 5th of November, which is a Saturday on the Pacific coast, we have Venus opposing Uranus. And of course, so we're looking at Scorpio for Venus. And Venus is not necessarily comfortable or effervescent or happy in Scorpio. And then, of course, Uranus is in Taurus. So I wanted to start off with this instead of just jumping straight into the total eclipse, which is going to be on the 8th of November 2022, because I see this eclipse playing out as a process, and I think it starts off with this on the 5th of November. So we have, well, what does Venus represent? Typically, we say Venus represents love, for sure. So certainly for some individuals, there may be some kind of instant attraction that happens. And certainly if you've got something in Scorpio, say around the 16 degree mark, we'll take 15 to 18 degrees of Scorpio, there may be something that happens to you with regards to an instant attraction to somebody. And again, that's on the 5th. But Venus also represents our values and represents the female, right? Women. And so I think this could really have an escalation of this type of thing that's already playing out as we've seen it ourselves in the news media, that females are rising up. Females are rebelling. Uranus represents the rebellion, and I think Venus here represents females. So that's what we have starting off, kicking things off like that. Now, it could individually too have a specific female that sets off rebellions as well. We've already had some of that playing out already, but this may actually continue right the way through the beginning of November. But at the same time, we also have the moon will be conjunct Chiron at that time. So this to me emphasizes the moon being the collective. So the collective women wanting healing at this time, wanting to feel whole and rising up and rebelling. Now, this may also play out in the US as well, and it may play out in the elections, where that's on our ballot as well, with regards to female rights, right? So I think that's going to play out and show itself in a big way on a collective level for females. Okay, so when we go into the 8th of November, which is the day that we're going to have this significant total eclipse, which, you know, my goodness, this eclipse is going to cover so much, certainly of the Western world, and further down into Argentina and that, and well over to Russia and parts of China. I did make a video, an extensive video on this already, including all the sun signs and ascendants. So I'm going to put the link in my text box for that. And I would suggest that you go directly to there after you've watched this November video to really get more in-depth. I really spent a lot of time. I also put a lot of links on this video with regards to where in the world can you see it and what times. And I think you'll find it very informative. So I'm really going to do more of an overview of this eclipse in this November video, and then just focus on other energies that are happening here. But certainly this is a significant total eclipse in Taurus, and not to be taken lightly. But for some people, like don't go around being afraid of this eclipse. This eclipse I see on an individual level is there to break you out of things that have held you back, people that have held you back, places that may have held you back, etc., etc. So if you need to be breaking out and you've not had literally a break to get out of your situation, this eclipse could very well bring it along for you. Now, especially if you have anything around, say, the 16-degree mark of Taurus, because that's where the moon will be, but then it's a full moon. So we know that the opposite sign, Scorpio, is also going to be affected, and that would be the sun being in Scorpio at 16 degrees of Scorpio. And then, of course, we have, significantly, Uranus conjunct that eclipsed moon. Or the eclipse of the moon. So I would say that keep it fairly close in orb, so in terms of degrees, because a lot of times these eclipses can go by individually without really much happening in our lives. I personally see this eclipse operating more at a collective level, and for sure we are going to see a lot of rebellious type of energy, not only coming up from the people, but other potential governments just striking out and using this eclipse energy to do that. And this could happen in many different parts of the world and may not be just restricted to, say, one part like Ukraine, which is obvious right now. That will continue. It can also bring things like earth events of some sort too, right? So unexpected weather of some sort to do with the earth. And that could be anything. It could literally be like earthquakes, tornadoes, that sort of thing. That can happen with regards to this if we take it up to more of a collective level. But I really see that our collective destiny, because of course we have the north nodes of the moon also very closely in orb. So I see this, first of all, on this day, the 8th of November. Now I'm looking at Pacific Standard Time, but we first have the moon conjunct those transiting north nodes, and that's around 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but that's actually on the 7th of November. So that's the first thing that happens with regards to this eclipse in terms of it progressing towards the actual total eclipse the next day. So that to me signals that whatever is going to be happening here, probably literally over the next 6 months, it has something to do with all of our collective destiny here. So we need to pay attention to the small things as well as the big things that happen around this eclipse. All right, after that, we have on the 8th of November, now we're coming into the day of the eclipse, we have that moon is going to be opposite to Mercury, and that's at 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I see now this moon having gone over the destiny of our collective destiny to now go on to oppose Mercury. So this is bringing in some kind of communication or communications that are going to be sent out to us at this time. And don't forget, Uranus is going to be operating around this time relentlessly, right? And if we look at what Uranus represents when we compare it to Mercury, many times Uranus is looked at as the higher octave of Mercury. So like I said, we have here 2 a.m., 8th November, that moon is opposing Mercury, but we have also conjuncting that moon, not far off, Uranus. So I would say this is going to be some very upsetting, unexpected news, and maybe more than one piece of news come in around this time, Pacific Standard Time. So now that leads on to us having the moon then is going to be opposing Venus at 11 a.m. Actually, just prior to that, we have the moon coming into now exactly conjunct that very unstable, surprising energy of Uranus, and that's at 3 a.m. We have that happening. Now, it will be opposing the sun too. So we've got the moon conjunct Uranus, exactly. But we have that moon and Uranus oppose the sun at 3 a.m. on the 8th of November. So I think this could be, if there's an event, this will be the time that strike happens, right? And then, as I mentioned earlier, we go on then to have a wide opposition with Venus at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this brings in that element of values for sure. Venus represents values. It also represents potentially females, but it can also be another thing tied in with our money, right? Venus can represent money too. So there's a number of things I see potentially playing out at this eclipse, and it may not just be restricted to rebellious energy from other countries, rebellion of people in countries, but this could be the striking point of some big change in our financial systems too. All right, so we move on to the 10th here of November. We have a beautiful trine at around 24 degrees of both Venus in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces. Now, we do get this happening once a year at least, so it's not that it doesn't happen semi-regularly. But this is just a beautiful energy. Now, Venus being in Scorpio has a lot of deep feelings at this time. That's that whole feelings run extremely deeply at this time. But trining Neptune, it's almost like you feel that for those people that have, say, fallen in love earlier on in November, you feel that you've met your soulmate. That's kind of the energy that we look at when we talk about Venus being in Scorpio, trining beautiful, inspirational, altruistic love, Neptune. So that's a lovely energy there. And if you have certainly something around 24 degrees, either of Scorpio or of Pisces, you've got this direct trine happening for you operating, and it's just beautiful energy. It can also bring in, for those folks that are certainly, say, in the music industry or any artistic endeavor, this can bring great inspiration to create beautiful things, beautiful music at this time. So the next day, on the 11th, we have that moon will now be conjunct Mars, but trining, or not trining, but squaring Neptune. And I do not see this as a positive thing, unfortunately. When we have a Mars is, of course, retrograde at this point in Gemini, squaring Neptune, planet of potential confusion, I would say that this could bring in, again, these smoke and mirrors types effect. Now, because Mars is retrograde, this is talking about energies working behind the scenes to cover things up. But I also saw that other energy that Neptune can give, and that's dissolving. So I'm not sure how this will play out, but it's like this energy behind the scene dissolving things is all I can say. Now, we know that Mars is in Gemini, so this is potentially something to do with communication. So this could be maybe some kind of communications to the global networking world of some sort. So this is like the news that we watch on our TV, the news we get on the internet type thing, where it's illusionary, false, and maybe even a little bit deceitful. Now, if you do have something like this playing out in your own chart, take care around this day on the 11th. Now, this will not be the last time that we have a Mars square Neptune, but because the moon's involved here too, this is bringing in confusion around our emotional lives as well. So it could have some people that have a direct connection with the degree point of this. So this is kind of in around the 24 degree mark, 23, 24 degree mark of Gemini when we talk about the Mars. And of course, Neptune is going to be at around 24 degrees of Pisces. So just take care of what, things that you're told, especially messages that you're given. Maybe don't believe everything that you hear. That's kind of like an overall energy that you could ascribe to something like a Mars square Neptune. With the whole moon involved here, it could have us just feeling kind of confused. On the 12th and the 13th of November, we actually have a nice, interesting yod being formed. And at its base, we have Venus at 25 Scorpio. We have powerful Pluto at 25 degrees of Capricorn. And this is pointing to that Mars retrograde at 24 degrees of Gemini. And this is a powerful yod where you've got transformational energy happening here, I think, for females that have been held back. And we know that this can be operating in many different countries, not just in, say, Iran. This is also happening in the US on a certain level too. But it's pointing to that Mars retrograde. And so I read this as potentially we may have some kind of reconsideration of messages that were put out at some point regarding females and their power being reconsidered. And that once that Mars retrograde goes direct, we may have some real positive messages coming out regarding females gaining their power back. And that is going to happen after the Mars retrograde ends, which is going to be around the 12th of January next year. Then we still have Mercury or Mars rather still having to come out of the shadow period. So let's say more like February, March. I would say there's going to be good news, especially in March when we have that Mars now going direct, conjuncting that point of 24 degrees of Gemini. But the other thing that Gemini actually represents, it represents our youth. So we're looking at the age group between 14 and 21 years old. So I see that this age group is going to be featured at this yod as well and have a tie-in with youth regarding that Mars retrograde and the messages being either given out to them or the messages they are giving out to us. On the 13th, we have a lovely sextile with Venus and Pluto. So here we have, again, this beautiful energy of love, bringing opportunities to maybe manifest something very powerful. So for those folks that say have Venus and or any planet that is around, say, 25 degrees of either Scorpio or the 26 degree mark or so of Capricorn, this could bring some opportunities for transformational love. But on another level, this can bring in transformational energy with regards to our values, right? Venus also represents our values. So the first half, certainly, of November, we really have this focus on, one, our values, potentially our money, and then, of course, for females. And these are kind of high-level things here. We've got, Pluto and Neptune involved. And we've also got a little bit of a tie-in of the eclipse, as well as Uranus, that does this wide opposition. So that first half is really going to put a focus on, and I really want to spend a little bit of time here on our value system. And so whatever is going to happen at that eclipse, it's going to force all of us to ask ourselves, what is it that we value? What is it that we value in ourselves as a collective, and could have us all questioning things as a result of whatever events happen around us at this time. But that's a lovely sextile to have Venus sextile Pluto. It may bring in some opportunities, literally, for women to gain their power back. On the 18th of November, we have Mercury going into Sagittarius. Now, it's not necessarily viewed astrologically as a favorable place for Mercury, but hey, Sagittarius is all about optimism, positive thinking, looking towards the future, being optimistic about the future. And so I just saw this as a very positive thing on the 18th of November, is that we may have some very positive messages coming in. Now, in particular, these messages may be coming in from foreign places or foreign things, because that also has to do with Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius rules foreign places, foreign people. It also rules the law. So we may have some important messages coming in with regards to laws of some sort, or maybe some legal cases. It also represents travel. And so this may be also a green light with regards to us being able to more easily travel, that communications regarding travel, maybe even getting our tickets and things like that, will just be easier. Going overseas, that's represented by Sagittarius, could just be smoother at this time. So on the 19th, we still have this Mars is going to be directly squaring Neptune again. And it will be minus the moon at this time. So this is just a direct square. And I just see this as subversive type stuff, where people, that on the collective level, there's these messages being put out. It's almost like feeding propaganda. That's what I got with this Mars in Gemini going retrograde with the square to Neptune. It's propaganda, where what's being said in the public is nothing remotely regard to what's actually going on behind the scenes, right? I also got this as cover-ups of some sort. All right, so on the 23rd, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So Happy New Year to all my Sagittarians. Now, this is at 1 degree of Sagittarius, 37 minutes. It's at 2:57 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 23rd of November. And the other lucky thing that happens, the ruler of Sagittarius, and that would be Jupiter, goes direct at 28 degrees of Pisces. Whoa, what a day. If you have either your ascendant around, say, either 0 to 2 or 3 degrees of Sagittarius, or your sun is around this, so those would be those folks that are born really towards the last week of November. It's those birthdays that are going to really be highlighted in a big way. And if you do have anything around those degrees, like your sun or ascendant, that sets you up for lots of new beginnings with regards to the following birthday year, right? And especially with that, your actual ruler, Jupiter, going direct that day. And it's in Pisces, which is a very inspirational sign, right? That's super positive. That, to me, brings in an extra little dollop of good luck. But overall, this might just be a wonderful day for new beginnings, where many folks can see a positive view of their future. So there may be some events that happen around us, and typically those might be in foreign places, foreign things, anything to do with the legal profession, anything to do with travel. All these things could come into play too around this time period of this new moon. That sets off some really positive energies where we can see more clearly an optimism for our future. On the 28th, we have Mars still retrograde. We'll be trining Saturn. And this will occur at 19 degrees of Gemini and 19 degrees of Aquarius, respectively. Well, this is just a lovely setup of energy where we have concerted energy that is more focused to do some planning with regards to those that are in, say, positions of authority. That is going to be something that's brought in here. So I think this more of people working together to maybe hammer out some interesting communications that may have some implications for us with regards to rules and regulations. So that's what Saturn can represent as well. Not only people that are, say, superior to us or above us, like managers and directors, but it also talks about rules and regulations here. So I see this as potential planning with regards to some rules and regulations And maybe this is going to be more on a collective level, like a worldwide level. I've talked about this before in videos, but this is just a lovely setup of planning together. It's not just taking action on it, it's actually planning in many respects behind the scenes, people getting together to put things in place. So the 29th of November, we have still Mars retrograde is going to be opposite Mercury. So that's going to be Mercury, obviously, in Sagittarius. And this could just have some communications coming in with regards to, again, our foreign nations. And it could be that some action might be taken at this time. That's behind the scenes, not seen, but it comes to light in some kind of communications. So this is an opposition. This is something that is not necessarily, it will be positive in the sense that it will give us the information that we need, but the actual action of this with an opposition could cause some challenges to some folks here. On the 30th of November, we have Mercury a sextile Saturn. And so this is bringing together messages, contracts. It'll be a good day to have an opportunity to put contracts together. So certainly if you are, say, taking on a new job or taking on, say, employees in your organization, this gives you lots of opportunities to work out the contract in a favorable way. But it does bring in opportunities to kind of quote the rules and regulations that say go with a contract type of situation as well. It could have negotiations brought up to a collective level as well. Perhaps there will be some countries that decide to enter into some fruitful communications because, of course, Mercury is all about communications. We also have that day, a Venus in Sagittarius is going to be opposite that Mars retrograde in Gemini. So for some folks, this could bring in some kind of, I see this more as a flirtatious type thing. And certainly Gemini is a flirtatious sign. And then having the Venus in Sagittarius kind of gives it also a little bit of flirtatious, let's have fun. I mean, Sagittarius loves to have fun. It loves to take risks and loves to travel. So there may be some folks that decide to set up some kind of travel arrangements right around the end of November successfully at this time. But it can also bring in love relationships too. I would say that this is going to be bringing in love relationships that are a little more, not superficial in the sense that they couldn't be serious, but they may start off as something flirtatious and fun-loving. So this can also be fun-loving events as well. Even though Mars is retrograde, that's okay. And of course, Mars being in Gemini, if this is a love type situation, it could be more than one person. So these could be for some folks that have, say, something around these degrees or these signs, both Sagittarius and or Gemini. This could just bring up some lovely social events. So that ends actually November as a month astrologically. In terms of looking forward to December, December brings in a full moon for Geminis. So for Geminis, you're going to have some kind of tie-up in December that may be actually beneficial for you because don't forget, you're also going to have Mars retrograde in your sign. So there may be some tie-ups in December for some Geminis where something, maybe something has to end in order to begin again. But I'll cover that again in my next month's video. We also have a new moon at 1 degree of Capricorn that will happen. And that's going to happen around the 23rd of December. But we also have happening Mercury retrograde ending the year in Capricorn. So for some Capricorns, that may involve you having to go back on some of your written work or any messages that you sent out. The big news is that towards the end of December, we will have Jupiter going in ingressing back in for a second time to 0 degrees of Aries. So, hey, Aries, this is a big signal for you. Certainly bringing in potential for good luck for you, benefits coming in, people like advisors and teacher coming in for you as well. All right, so next I'm going to go into each of the individual ascendants and sun signs. So, Sagittarius, you have the total eclipse full moon on the 8th of November is in your 6th house. So, it really has to aspect something in your chart, like your sun, your moon, or your ascendant or midheaven, almost exactly to have an effect. A lot of times these eclipses can go by without any real direct effect to you, unless you've got something very close to the degree point. And of course, we're talking about the degree point of 16 degrees of Taurus or 16 degrees of Scorpio when we're talking about exact kind of hits here. So if you do have something at that degree point, your 6th house could be very much aspected here. Now, the 6th house represents a few things. It represents your health. So it's possible that for some Sagittarians, an aspect of your health will come into view. Now, this is a full moon, and we have Uranus in there too in the mix, causing things to be unexpected. So it could be that something unexpected comes up with regards to your health that gives you a tap on the shoulder and says you need to take care of this. That could happen at this point. But the other thing is that this is your day-to-day routines. So for those folks that have jobs, this is your day-to-day job. For those that do not have jobs that might be retired, this would be what do you do day to day. So there might be some unexpected things happen in your day-to-day job or your day-to-day habits that you do on a regular basis that come up for change. Or you may take the initiative to change. You may suddenly just say, I'm quitting this job, for instance. I don't like it. It doesn't fulfill me. And I'm just going to let this go. You could also have new opportunities for a new job coming in, Sagittarius, that really excites you, that gets you excited about doing a day-to-day job again. Well, you've got your new moon of the month is in your sign. It's at 1 degree of Sagittarius. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is really the Sagittarians that are born towards the last week or so of November will be affected directly. And if you are, or if you have your ascendant around the 1 degree mark of Sagittarius, the effect of this new moon and new beginnings will go on for a good 6 months after that, maybe even up to a year. So happy new year to all my Sagittarian friends. I am a Sagittarius by birth as well. So I guess this applies to me too. Don't forget, Sagittarius, that you also have that Mars retrograde happening in your opposite sign of Gemini. And of course, that's the 7th house. So the 7th house represents, all the others in your life. Typically refer to the others as your marriage partner or serious relationship, but it can also be your business partnership or your clients, right, at this time. So there may be some, either say it's a business partnership, maybe negotiating new contracts, maybe with a partnership situation that you're getting into. It could have you literally reviewing the serious partnership that you're in, and maybe not necessarily taking action at this point because Mars is retrograde, but just maybe having to pay attention to maybe something with regards to your partner. And this doesn't have to be something negative, right? It could be that you are helping facilitate something for a partner, right? And this could be something to do with messaging, writing. That's Gemini's writing too. Sales or commerce as well. So there may be some Sagittarius that are actually helping facilitate their partner in that way. But it could also have you just reviewing your your situation with your partner at this time. All right. Take care of yourself, Sagittarius. So for Capricorn, you have a lovely setup here with this total eclipse happening on the 8th of November. And so this is not only in your 5th house of true love, creative projects, children, having fun. It also is in an earth sign like yours. So it trines. So this eclipse favorably trines your sign, Capricorn. And I'm sure a lot of Capricorns are very happy to hear about that. And that's just lovely. So this could manifest in unexpectedly, for some Capricorns, a creative project comes your way, because don't forget, we have Uranus also in the mix here. So an unexpected creative project could come your way. For other Capricorns, an unexpected pregnancy that's very positive, maybe very welcome at this time, happens around this eclipse. And certainly if you have something around the 16-degree mark of Taurus or Scorpio, that's a more direct hit for you, right? And so the effects of this on your 5th house for those folks could be up to 6 months post-eclipse. So it's a very favorable thing for you for sure. Now, the other thing that the 5th house represents is being your authentic self, right? So there may be some Capricorns that actually get this real inspiration to start expressing themselves, perhaps in a creative way. That's extremely positive, but it's a big turning point, right? This eclipse is a total eclipse. And maybe you'll get some kind of inspirational thing come through, because Uranus also rules like, literally enlightenment, aha moments as well. And for some Capricorns, you may just turn around and say, I have not been my authentic self here. I've got to start expressing who I really am. And that's what you start doing. Now, you are going to have your new moon next month, Capricorn, on the 23rd of December, and it's also at 1 degree. It's interesting, we're going to have a lot of new moons around the 1 degree mark for a lot of signs. Now, the new moon that's going to happen in November in Sagittarius is in your 12th house. So this could just bring some new opportunities for you with regards to maybe the metaphysical world. There may be some Capricorns that take up metaphysical type things, maybe even because it's sort of behind the scenes. It could be reading, it could be going and watching YouTube videos, that type of thing, or just doing more investigation. It might be a nice time to be inspired by going to an ashrams as well, right? I mean, Sagittarius is a very spiritual sign too, right? It could just have, for some folks, just have you considering, what's my future? Where do I see my future going? And maybe setting up some goals for yourself for the coming year, or maybe even doing a vision board. Wow, that would be an awesome thing to do, Capricorn. A new moon in Sagittarius in your 12th house, do a vision board. It would be perfect. What do I want in my future? You are also going to have a Mercury retrograde happening in December 2022 as well in Capricorn. So that's something where there may be some communications that get mixed up or don't come through properly, or maybe even some rewriting that you have to do. I'll cover that more next month for you, Capricorn. Take care of yourself. For Aquarius, this total eclipse is in your 4th house of home, your mother, and by extension, your family, and it's also your habits as well. This forms a square to your sign, Aquarius. So, and you also you're still entertaining Saturn in your sign as well. So this really says there may be some challenges thrown up for you as a result of this eclipse. And the challenges may actually come through superiors, that's Saturn in your sign. They could come through new responsibilities as well, where that Saturn is activated a bit from the eclipse, even though there's not an exact connection here. It could be that new responsibilities come your way through superiors that you are you're having to really look at carefully and see as challenges, that you can't automatically take on these responsibilities, that this has to be a process that you work out. So for some Aquarius, that could be coming through for you. Now, this could also apply directly to your fourth house, right? Because the fourth house of home, it could be that something comes up unexpectedly in your home. But don't forget that across from that fourth house, where the eclipse takes place, is going to be the sun in your 10th house. So I kind of see this as a juxtapositions for a lot of Aquarius, where something happens in your home that also affects your career, and vice versa. This is a full moon, and although typically we talk about culminations, when we're talking about eclipses, this could be new beginnings too. So there might be some Aquarians that actually start a new job, or unexpectedly out of the ethers comes this new job for yourself or new career, where your home is affected. And it's like, well, oh my goodness, this new career is going to take me overseas, or going to take me to a different state. I'm going to have to move. And so for some Aquarians, that may come up as well. There may be some challenges with regards to your mother or your family at this time. And I would say just err on the side of negotiations and working with others. You've got that whole lovely trine happening with the Mars retrograde, right? Use that, leverage that. That's about working with others, right? And especially with regards to communicating with others. So hopefully that is going to be of use to you at this square with the total eclipse. Now, the new moon, which is in Sagittarius, well, that sextiles your sign, Aquarius. And of course, it will go on, that moon will go on to sextile transiting Saturn in your sign. So this is just going to bring you lovely opportunities your way. And I see this as potential for you to, some of these new responsibilities that you've had to take on, Aquarius, as a result of Saturn in your sign. This may see you be able to take some new steps forward, where you're getting used to these new responsibilities that you've had to take on board. And you can actually see these as stepping stones. That's what I'm getting in my mind here, as stepping stones. And if we look at Sagittarius, of course, Sagittarius does rule foreign places and foreign things. So there may be a tie in here with foreign places and foreign things and new responsibilities, and you being able to take tentative first steps and opportunities to use this new, maybe even new acquiring of new skills forward at this new moon in Sagittarius, right? It's a positive thing, the new moon for you, no question of it. Now, you will have Saturn leaving your sign, Aquarius, on the 8th of March, officially 2023. Good luck, Aquarius. All right, so for Pisces, this total eclipse in Taurus is in your 3rd house, and it forms a lovely sextile with your sign, Pisces. And so I would say, like, the 3rd house represents a number of things. Generally speaking, we speak of the 3rd house as communications of any sort. It's also writing. It is our siblings. It's our neighborhood that we're in. Therefore, short journeys are also viewed at this time. Now, the sextile says to me that you're going to be unexpectedly being given opportunities to promote or to utilize any of those areas that I've just mentioned that are 3rd house related. But generally speaking, I see this as potentially a lot of Pisces being able to give them the opportunity to write, to unexpectedly be able to write something of significance. Maybe your own story of your life will come through here. Maybe you'll provide an inspirational story to others. But it's going to be something unexpected with Uranus in the mix here, right? Now, it won't directly affect Neptune, which of course is still in your sign as well. Neptune is around, I think, the 24-degree mark. And this eclipse, of course, takes place around the 16-degree mark. You could also get unexpected opportunities to travel more locally as opposed to, say, overseas, where unexpectedly you've got to, maybe for your job, start traveling to maybe more locations. That could be up for some Pisces here too. Now, the new moon in Sagittarius squares Pisces, and it's in your 10th house. All right, so the 10th house is mainly your career. So this says to me that there's going to be some new initiative taking place in your career. Now, we just talked about you traveling locally, right, being the 3rd house. But when we look at the 10th house, and then when we look at the new moon in Sagittarius, Sagittarius really speaks to foreign places and foreign things. So it looks like you're going to have to incorporate something with regards to your career and foreign people, foreign things. It can also have to do with travel, generally speaking, because Sagittarius rules the 9th house of travel. The law could be implicated here too. So it could be that whole total eclipse maybe takes away what you've been enjoying so far in your career, just traveling locally. And this new moon in your career zone says, okay, but now we want you to start traveling internationally, or at least at further distances. And you see this as a potential block for you, that you were enjoying doing the local traveling around, and now you've got to do this international travel. And you may have to overcome some obstacles that you have, but this will be a new beginning for sure in your 10th house, Pisces. Now we know that you've got Neptune still in your sign, exerting a few things. It exerts certainly a lot of compassion. It gives you enormous amounts of intuition to see into any aspect of what's happening in your life. So I hope there's some Pisces that are using their intuition. Now, on the 10th, you're going to have lovely Venus trining Neptune. So I would be looking forward to the 10th, just after that eclipse, where you've got this lovely trine energy coming in, really setting up some beautiful energy, certainly with regards to love at its highest. I mean, if we look at Neptune being the higher octave here of Venus, and then Venus being the other planet trining Neptune, this could bring in some potential for some real compassion, for sure, but it can bring in soulmates at this time for some Pisces that are open to that. It can also bring in, for those Pisces that are, say, in the music world or art world of some sort, huge opportunities for inspiration to produce some beautiful music, beautiful poetry, or beautiful pieces of art at this time. So look to the 10th for those folks that are involved in those areas as supreme inspiration. So we have Jupiter now back in your sign, right? For at least most of December as well. The last week of December, Jupiter will go back into Aries. So here you've got Jupiter also back in your sign. Now it's at 28, 29 degrees of Pisces. So certainly for those Pisces that have, or Pisces ascendants, around 28, 29 degrees, this is like a double dip again, right? A double dip into beneficial things coming your way, teachers, advisors coming in to bring great benefits for you. But at its core, in Pisces, this is like really high level inspiration. And for some advanced Pisces, this could have some Pisces taking on some huge compassionate projects that will have a real impact on the world as it reaches out from a standpoint of charity and compassion, right? So go for it, Pisces, for those that are into doing that type of thing. This will be a good opportunity for you to implement Jupiter in the last degrees of Pisces here, right? Jupiter will come back into your sign in 12 years again. So you'll have opportunities to do something then. But you're not going to have Neptune there. So it's kind of like a nice play on a charity type things, compassion, and of course, huge intuition of some sort. And it might be, for some Pisces, intuition on where should I be going next in terms of compassionate projects. All right, take care of yourself, Pisces. So for Aries, this total eclipse that's happening in Taurus on the 8th of November is going to be in your second house of earned income. So, hey, with Uranus there too, there could be different effects that could happen. You could have an unexpected increase in your income come in, or an unexpected adjustment has to be made with regards to the income that you make. Whatever it is, it's going to be a big surprise. Hopefully for some Aries, it's going to be a very pleasant surprise and an increase in your income. The second house also rules your possessions, as well as values, and in particular value of yourself. So there may be some Aries that have some kind of wake-up call with regards to valuing themselves. So what could this play out as? Well, for some assertive Aries, they may say, look, this job is not valuing me. It's not giving me the money that I need. It's not valuing me in any ways. And some Aries just quit. They decide to stop their job and the income stops, and they look to some other form of earning money and doing their job. But certainly both things could happen for you, Aries. You could lose a job, leave a job voluntarily, but on the flip side, you could have one come in that's of more value of who you are. And that gives you more money. Now, don't forget, Jupiter goes into your sign the last week, the last days really, of December 2022. It will stay in your sign, Aries, right the way through till about mid-May 2023. This is a 12-year cycle, so every 12 years you will have Jupiter in your sign. But I would definitely be taking advantage of it next year. Now, Jupiter gives you lots of benefits. It brings people favorably in for you. So certainly for those Aries that maybe want to make a new start, next year is going to be a good year to do that. You're going to also have the eclipses in your sign and in your opposite sign of Libra. And of course, your north nodes are going to be, the transiting north nodes are going to be in Aries too. So a lot of focus, certainly for the first few months of 2023, Aries, in your sign, benefiting, supporting you, and pushing you forward into your destiny path in a positive way. Look out for potentially people literally coming in at the end of December, Aries, that may not initially seem as beneficial for you. Those people could play out to be very beneficial for you the first few months of 2023. We know that you have Chiron in your sign too. So this is all about, super healing for you. Take advantage of Chiron being in your sign for any literal healing. So say some of you may need to heal yourself from a psychological standpoint. This could bring in, with this Chiron in your sign, healers can come in for you to help you here, right? All right, take care, Aries. All right, Taurus. So Taurus, this total eclipse is in your sign. And hey, this is not the last eclipse that's going to be affecting you. You're also going to have a full moon, not an eclipse, but a full moon in Taurus too in May. You're also going to have a Mercury retrograde in Taurus in the May time period as well. And then, of course, the final eclipse is going to be in your sign, and that will be at 5 degrees of Taurus, more towards like October time, 2023. So this is just another eclipse that's in your sign. You're still going to have other things happening to you. But man, this is going to pack a punch for you, especially if you have anything around the 16-degree mark of Taurus or 16-degree mark of Scorpio. Now, we do have squares, trines, and sextiles and all that. Yes, I understand that. I tend to be pretty strict when it comes to effects. You pretty well have to have something significant around that 16-degree mark, or this eclipse could go by where things play out on the world stage and you see things happening, or things happen more internally to you as opposed to things happening to you physically around you. Okay, so that would mean the sun, the moon, and in particular the ascendant would have to be around that 16-degree mark of Taurus and or Scorpio to have any direct effect. And because we have Uranus, that's also in your sign, Taurus, this is just going to pack such a huge punch for some Taurians. But I think all Taurians are probably going to feel this, even if it's as a jolt of minor enlightenment of some sort, maybe a small aha moment for some Taurians. For others, major turnarounds. And certainly if you've got a Taurus ascendant around 16 degrees, you can expect your whole life to be up for changes. Certainly continuing for the next 6 months after the eclipse as well. I did do a whole video on this. I've mentioned that at the beginning, but especially for you, Taurus, I would really go back in and listen to my whole video that I did illuminating a lot of things, especially for you, Taurus, and of course, Scorpio too. It's in the text box. I would highly encourage you to go take a look at that. Now, you have Venus that rules your sign, right? And so Venus is also at least widely brought into this eclipse as well in terms of an opposition. So this could, for some folks, some Taurians, it could also bring into focus your love life and or your monies as well, not necessarily in a negative way. So for some Taurus folks, it could bring in a love. And it could bring in a significant love that changes your whole world. Money could come in at this time, either money coming in or money going out for some reason unexpectedly for some other Taurians. You're going to, with this eclipse, form a trine with Neptune and, of course, a sextile with Pluto. And that's going to be happening on the 10th and the 13th, respectively. So it's like the effects of this eclipse continue for some days afterwards, especially for you, Taurus. And so, look, this is a trine we're talking about in a sextile. So for some Taurians, you may be getting some opportunities after the eclipse to gain your power back in some way, where power is given back to you. And this can occur on kind of like in any aspect of your life. Of course, if it's your sun, it depends where that sun is. It'd be in that house. If you've got your sun, say, at 16 degrees of Taurus, the focus is going to be on that house that is affected by the eclipse, right? But then that goes on to form these favorable energies with Neptune, inspiration, and Pluto, your power. So look to the 10th and the 13th also as positive days at Taurus, to be inspired as well as to take your power back or to be given some aspects of power your way. So the new moon that is in Sagittarius is in your 8th house. So the 8th house, generally speaking, we refer to the 8th house as shared resources. It's where you put your investments. It's your 401k. It's your pensions. But it's also the psychological self. It's also the house of sex. So this could bring, from some Taurians, a more serious relationship could come your way. Now, the new moon is at 1 degree of Sagittarius, so for it to have a direct effect, there would have to be something, say, around the 1 degree mark of Sagittarius in your 8th house. It could just bring opportunities to maybe make an investment. Sagittarius is about your future. So maybe a future investment opportunity comes your way, Taurus, and you're able to do something with regards to an investment here. Like I mentioned, you still have different things that are going to be happening in terms of eclipses right the way through next year, 2023. But positively, you're going to have Jupiter in your sign. And that's going to start on the 17th of May, 2023. So this is going to bring this beautiful effect for all those Taurians that have had this major upsets and certainly challenges for the past year or two in their lives. Jupiter ushers in a time period where it all makes sense, where you have positive things now happening to you. So I would say look to May itself. You're also going to have a new moon that will be occurring in Taurus. It's not an eclipse, it's just a new moon. And the Mercury retrograde in Taurus happening around May time period. Just look to May as this real positive start where things start to make sense. You're going to be able to see more easily the future for yourself with having Jupiter there. And I would say maybe even some opportunities for some Taurus to maybe rewrite some things with the Mercury retrograde, be able to go back and maybe correct some things depending where the Mercury retrograde in Taurus falls in your chart. I'll obviously speak more about these as we get into next year, but I wanted to give you the heads up, especially for you Taurus, and especially for those Taurus, and some of those are my clients, that have been through some pretty rough times with Uranus really causing upsets in their sign. Take care, Taurus. Always thinking positive things for you. All right, Gemini. Gemini, this total eclipse occurs in your 12th house. And so the 12th house is really what we call the hidden house. It's really where we have to look at ourselves and say, what do I need to get rid of here? What has to go? What have I been running away from? What have I been shoving underneath the carpet? So this is kind of a dramatic thing to have a total eclipse here, Gemini, in this 12th house, and Uranus there too. So for some Gemini, this could bring in true aha moments and enlightenment. For sure, that's a positive thing that could happen with this eclipse. But it can also bring an ending to something 12th house related. Maybe this is something that has been holding you back goes. All of a sudden, the solution is there at this eclipse, and you say, boom, I'm going to get rid of that. And you can walk away from whatever's maybe been holding you back. And for some Geminis, the holding back may have been all in your head, where you get it. You say, I just had to shift this, and now I'm free. So that could be something that happens for you here too. The other thing is that things 12th house related could be, for some strange reason, unexpectedly, say you have to unexpectedly go to hidden places. So hidden places are things like government agencies, prisons, ashrams, hospitals. So let's just use hospitals as an example. So for some Geminis, you may have to unexpectedly go and visit hospitals for some reason. This could have something to do with maybe a family member ends up having to go into the hospital and you have to go visit them. It doesn't necessarily mean you personally will have to go to the hospital. It could have you unexpectedly coming into some healing. I mean, the 12th house is also a house of healing, right? And being the metaphysical, you could maybe gain through some kind of healing. So there may be some folks that go to ashrams or an ashram to obtain some really deep healing, and they get it, right? They get it at this total eclipse. So certainly for those Geminis that are planning to do something like that, I would say that's a positive use of this eclipse, seeking enlightenment and healing at this time would be excellent thing to do at the 12th house. But overriding all this, Gemini, it's asking you to let go of things that you know have been holding you back. Just work at them to get rid of them, right? Now, the new moon in Sagittarius is opposite your sign. So, I mean, you can't get a bad sort of aspect with Jupiter ruling Sagittarius. So I saw this for you, especially since you've got Mars retrograde, and then of course Mars will stay in your sign, not just retrograde, for a couple of months after January. So I think this could spark, even though it's at 1 degree, this new moon of Sagittarius, I think this could spark that Mars, even though there's a distance in degrees, it's going to be opposite your sign. So this is going to be in your 7th house. So something may happen with regards to either your partner, your business partner, or clients. So for some folks, it may be that you have new clients come your way and that you use the Mars retrograde in your sign, Gemini, to develop new clients, right? So that's a great way to be using that Mars retrograde, Gemini, in your sign, is developing new clients at this time, especially at the new moon in your opposite sign. You'll be given new opportunities to do that. So take advantage of that is what I would say for some Geminis. And for some, it can give you new opportunities to work in a business partnership setting as well. And with the Mars retrograde continuing and going direct in your own sign, this may just be a kickoff for you. In November, the new starts that continues on right the way through March next year and produces some positive results for you. It could also be, for some Geminis, a writing project. Now, when we look at your opposite sign of Sagittarius, that new moon, where the new moon is, Jupiter rules the 9th house of publishing, as well as travel. And so the other thing that this could bring in for you are those areas could be activated too. But I'm thinking the overall thing here in my mind is that if you are taking up some kind of writing project, and it doesn't have to be producing a tome of some sort, it could just be producing some maybe educational materials that are courses, short courses. If you are doing that, Gemini, that new moon falling in Sagittarius could somehow set in place an opportunity for publishing those courses or short things that you're doing or writing that you're doing. There's going to be a tie-in. So maybe watch out to see what happens around that new moon, Gemini, especially if you are in the process of doing some kind of writing. It's a positive new moon for you, for sure. You could also be taking some trip of some sort as well. That's the other thing I'm thinking with regards to that new moon in Sagittarius. There could be some opportunities that come up, not necessarily to take the trip in November, because you've got that Mars retrograde in your sign, is retrograde. It could be planning a trip. That could be coming up for you too. Okay, we'll leave that as it is. We've already spoken about the fact that you've got Mars retrograde in your sign, Gemini. And certainly if you're doing any kind of writing, boy, this is an excellent time, whether Mars is retrograde or not. But certainly during the Mars retrograde, you're going to be more introspective. And I would just say it can also, because Mars is energy and wants to move forward, and at the retrograde it says, you're going to have to hold back. I would say for those Geminis that feel they want to move forward, they've got this impulse that I've got to move forward with this. I've got to do this. I've got to move forward. During the retrograde period, and let me go over that again, that's from the 30th of October this year, right through the 12th of January next year. Hold back. There's going to be a reason, especially if you're writing things or doing messaging or communicating at this time, especially working with others. Hold back that impulse to want to put something out. take your time to put these things together in a correct way. And if you certainly are getting edits, for instance, coming back from other folks, take them in a positive light, especially during the Mars retrograde, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. All right, so we're going to have Venus going into, at that new moon time, towards the latter part of December. Venus will also be in Sagittarius, opposite that Mars retrograde in Gemini. So for some Geminis, you may meet somebody. In fact, you may meet more than one person, because Gemini represents the twins, two people. So for some folks, that could be happening for you. I see this more as a social setting. Gemini is very social, and it likes moving amongst many friends. Venus in Sagittarius is very lighthearted and likes to have fun. So certainly around this new moon as well, look forward to going and actually having some fun, maybe even some flirtatious fun with more than one person. And that happens as a direct opposition around the 30th. So that ties in with, maybe going out to a party for New Year's. You could have a lot of fun, Gemini. All right? Plan to go out and enjoy yourself. I would say in a social setting for the 31st of December. You're going to have a good time. Take care, Gemini. Oh, just wanted to mention that you do have a full moon coming up in December, early December. So there will be some tie-ups for some Geminis in December. That'll be important for you. I'll talk more about that in my December video. Take care, Gemini. For Cancer, this is a very favorable total eclipse that's going to be happening for you. First of all, it's going to happen in the 11th house, and also Taurus sextiles your sign. Straight off, this says, Cancer, you're going to have many opportunities to not only develop more friendships and to develop more association with groups, but for those folks that are using social media, so that's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that, that's also ruled by the 11th house. This could have a major unexpected turnaround in those areas for you. You may even be highlighted in some ways. I'm not saying you will necessarily become famous, but certainly there's going to be some unexpected attention put on any Cancers that are working in those areas of social media. Your star could rise a little bit at this time. It's a total eclipse. You've got Uranus in there too, bringing in all sorts of unexpected things for you. So enjoy that. Unexpected opportunities will be coming your way, Cancer. And certainly if you've got your own business, you're also going to have unexpected income coming through, because the 11th house represents the income that you earn for those folks that have their own business. And your own business is represented by the opposite house, which is the 5th house. And don't forget, this is a full moon. So where is the sun? The sun is in that 5th house. So there's a dynamic of energy being set up here for those Cancers that have their own business, especially in some aspect of social media. Expect some real interesting things, surprising things to come your way, including money. Positive things, Cancer. So this new moon that is going to be happening at 1 degree of Sagittarius falls in your 6th house. So your 6th house could represent here a new opportunity with regards to your health. So for those maybe Cancers who've suffered from a bit of ill health, there's a whole new beginning for you starting at this new moon. And the new moon could also initiate a new beginning for some folks with regards to your day-to-day job. Now, this could tie in an element of foreign people or foreign places. So there will be some Cancers that will be using that new moon to have to now connect in with this foreign connection with regards to their day-to-day job. Sagittarius also rules publishing. The sixth house also rules small animals. And Sagittarius also, to some extent, is animals. Typically, we look at horses and things like that. But I'm getting this intuitive hit that there may be some Cancers that decide to have a new pet come into their life. And it's a whole new, it's an optimistic, positive beginning for them. That's something to look forward to for some Cancers here. But overall, I would say that this is a new beginning with regards to your health and your day-to-day job. Things are just going to become more positive. Sagittarius likes to bring in positive, optimistic things. And in this case, it brings it into your health as well as your day-to-day job. Now, Venus, when it's in Scorpio, so that's kind of like the first part of November, trining you, Cancer. And Venus will also be in your fifth house. Scorpio represents your fifth house as well, right? Now, the fifth house, as I mentioned earlier, is certainly your own business, but it also rules true love. It also rules, to some extent, fame, artistic projects. So in combination with the eclipse, as well as Venus being in your fifth house, trining your sign, I'm just going to say that probably the whole month of November, Cancer, is going to be filled with not only some surprising, unexpected elevation of yourself and your money, but also your love life. And creative projects could come in for you too unexpectedly, that really give you a chance to show off your abilities, that give you a chance to be more your authentic self, that really dovetail into who you really are. So Cancer, look forward to this whole month of November, especially that first half of November where everything positive will probably come in. The latter half, we're going to really have a more focus with Sagittarius being in your sixth house. That's your day-to-day job, right? So take care and enjoy November. Leo, this total eclipse is going to be in your 10th house of career. Yeah, so, and this will not be the last eclipse. It's going to be featuring a square with your sign, right? So anything in Taurus, Leo, squares your sign. So this total eclipse is going to bring some challenge with regards to your career. And this could manifest as new management coming in. But this is not going to be the end of that new management. Expect next year, Leo, for more changes to come in with regards to your career. And I think it's going to be more external with regards to big shakeups in the management of your organization or company. But certainly this is the biggest total eclipse full moon that comes in. And so you will be presented with some challenges that you've got to incorporate. I suspect that these will be new managers or directors for most Leos. It could be new responsibilities, though, too, that are thrust on you unexpectedly. And this could manifest as literally someone, poof, in upper management, poof, they're gone. And you have to step in to handle some things that you did not expect to do. All those things can happen with a square to your sign in the 10th house. But shakeups in your career, Leo, are an ongoing theme. This is just a real igniting point for you in terms of things will be made very clear very quickly with regards to what's happening in your career. And like I said, I really feel this is going to be more management changes that are unexpected coming your way in November and further on into next year too. This is not the end, just November. It's just the beginning. All right, so we have the new moon in Sagittarius. Hey, that's a fellow fire sign for you, Leo. So this trines your sign, and it's in your fifth house. Your fifth house, and the fifth house is true love. It's creative project. It's you expressing your authentic self. It's you having fun. This new moon, I see for almost all Leos, bringing in some real sense of tangible fun in your life with people that are positive and optimistic. It could bring in, for some folks, a new love coming your way. That could certainly happen for some Leos. But I really see this as potentially you working with foreign people or foreign things in a creative way, a creative project of some sort. But having fun stands out for me right at the front of, right in my eyes. I'm feeling this having fun, where Leo maybe goes through some kind of major adjustment at the eclipse at the beginning of November. And then they get this lovely reprieve around the new moon in Sagittarius, where they actually get a chance to have a lot of fun with people. I see these as parties. Leo loves to have parties and go to parties and have fun. Sagittarius likes to have fun too. So this is you kicking up your heels, having a lot of fun around that new moon in Sagittarius. And so that the actual date for that is the 23rd of November. So that's right around, I guess, the Thanksgiving time. You could just take this as a wonderful time to have certainly meetups with friends around the Thanksgiving time to really enjoy yourself. Now, Leo, you are going to have a Venus retrograde happening. Well, Venus is going to be in your sign from June right the way through September next year. But the retrograde period will be more like July through the beginning of September. Classically, we talk about Venus retrograde as past people that we loved coming back in your life. So Leo, I guess you might want to review who that might be coming back into your life. Now, it can also represent significant friends that maybe you've lost touch with that were significant for you, especially those that were significant to you early in life. That could be something that happens to you too. Because it's in Leo and Leo represents true love, it could on one level see the development of a serious true love relationship over the summer period for some Leos. It could have, I guess, money coming back in because Venus does rule money, but I don't get money with Leo necessarily, but it could be for some folks. Mostly this is going to be to do with love for Leos. So certainly if you lost touch with a love, you can look forward to next summer as a time period where you may renew that love relationship or not. So we've got Saturn is opposite Leo right now. So Saturn is in Aquarius opposite your sign. This really sets up a dynamic. And so this is a 30-year cycle, Leo. So it won't be for another 30 years. So in March, we will have that Saturn, transiting Saturn, will move out of Aquarius and go into Pisces, no longer forming an opposition with your sign, Leo. So you can look forward to March next year as, and you should be feeling this now, more of a less burdensome, ownersome, dynamic set up with those who are your superiors. So you have seen superiors really challenge you and confront you basically with the opposition. That's waning now. And I mean, certainly Saturn is now getting towards the latter degrees of Aquarius. So unless you have something, say 20 degrees onwards in Leo, you no longer really have those challenges. But generally speaking, this whole effect for a lot of Leos being challenged by superiors or just generally challenged by people who think they know the rules, that's waning. So that's a positive thing for you, Leo. Take care, Leo. All right, Virgo. So Virgo, whoop-de-doo. This total eclipse in Taurus is in a fellow sign that is an earth sign like you. This forms a trine. And it's in your 9th house. So, wow, I would say Virgo, like Cancer, this could be a turning point month for you. You cannot go wrong with trines. This is positive energy that's just set up to just make things go smoothly with what? With you, but everything in your ninth house. So let's cover what the ninth house represents. So the ninth house represents, for those folks that are going through some kind of legal matters, hey, that's all going to get much easier for you at this total eclipse. And I would say for some Virgos, poof, some of those legal things are just going to go away suddenly. Suddenly they just disappear. Because we've got Uranus in the mix here too, right? Now, this also represents travel. So there might be some Virgos that get unexpected opportunities, especially to travel, say, overseas or to foreign places. And it's positive. For others, it could be an unexpected opportunity to publish something that they have, maybe that they've been writing for some time. It also represents, higher consciousness and also higher education. So there may be some Virgos, enlightened Virgos, that have a literal major change in their consciousness, where it's permanently lifted up to a very high level. And you start seeing things really as they are, from a standpoint of how you're influencing your environment, how your environment's influencing you, and what you can do from an enlightened standpoint to really make things better in your life and other people's life. Really taking that high road type of thinking. This can happen at an internal level too for some Virgos. For others, it could have, for those certainly seeking higher education, this could either have you unexpectedly being accepted maybe into an institution that you did not even think would happen for you. Remember, this is a trine, so it's favorable energy coming in for you. I guess those are the main areas that we're looking at in terms of the ninth house. Yeah, let's leave it as that. All positive things for you. If you need things to be exited out of your life that cover any of those ninth house areas, look to this eclipse to really facilitating that, to have a turnaround that's positive for you. Now, the new moon in Sagittarius is going to be in your fourth house of home, Virgo. And that's going to form a square with you. Now, not all is lost. I mean, this new moon is in positive Sagittarius, ruled by the most positive planet. That would be Jupiter. So I just see this as you're going to have to do some kind of adjustments with regards to either your home, either your present home. It could be your family home too. So some Virgos may see some reason that they maybe have to help do something with their family home. It can also be the mother and to some extent the family. So there may be some kind of challenges with regards to all those areas. Typically we look at the house as the fourth house of your home. So for those folks that want to have a new start, say they want to actually buy a new home, there just may be some challenges for some Virgos where it's not all straightforward, where you maybe have to check some more boxes than usual, or maybe put in more offers or a higher offer to get what you want. But it could also have you selling your home too. So that new start could happen for those folks too. But it's not going to be necessarily straightforward. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, for sure. With you having that total eclipse at the beginning of the month, I would say if there's a choice to be made, I would pick the beginning of the month as a time period to initiate any major changes on any front of Virgo that you need to do, as opposed to waiting, say, towards the 23rd, which is when the new moon is. But it doesn't matter. You're still going to have some positive energy happening throughout November. It's just that the challenges may be there where it's not so straightforward in terms of whatever's related to that fourth house, right? Now, Jupiter is going to be going back into Pisces. And of course, we've got Neptune in Pisces. So this opposes Virgo. And so this can set up, it's hard to get a bad aspect with Jupiter. So I would say this is potentially a positive influence, perhaps as an expert. Maybe let's just say you're trying to sell your house. Well, as we now go back in having Jupiter at the same time as that new moon, Jupiter goes into 28 sort of degrees of Pisces, and Neptune's there too. This could bring in some very inspirational, beneficial teacher or advisor that could help you sell that house of yours or buy that house of yours. So it's almost like happening at the same time, Virgo, where you've got challenges, but if you seek out the advice of an expert, that is also inspirational, right? Because you've got also that Neptune operating on top of the Jupiter. You could have some real help here, overcoming the obstacles that the square presents. So that's a big safety net that you've got happening there, Virgo, that you should look forward to. I mean, just on its own, Jupiter can certainly bring in some lucky things for you. It really could. Take care of yourself, Virgo. Libra, this total eclipse happens in your 8th house. And so this really emphasizes your finances in terms of your investments. You could have some unexpected maybe investment opportunity come in for you that is out of this world, that you're able to put your money somewhere and, maybe even turn your finances around. I mean, at its most extreme, for some Librans, maybe that are, let's just say you've got a loan of some sort that you can't figure out, that you want to get maybe rid of. This can bring up an energy where it does get rid of it. The total eclipse says, I can get rid of that loan that you've got, like a millstone around your neck. And this opportunity is given to you to get rid of it. Of course, I always caution people to make sure you read the fine print in that case. But because you've got Uranus in there in the 8th house as well, there's sudden opportunities that will come up, mostly to tie things up because this is a full moon. But it can go either way too. But I get the more feeling that this is a tie-up of some kind of finances. It could have you unexpectedly also just having money come in. Now, typically we look at Jupiter in the 8th house to represent inheritances. But because this is a powerful total eclipse and Uranus is coming in there to be unexpected energy, for some Librans, this could be an inheritance that could come in for you totally out of the blue, and bring you some benefits and money your way. The other thing this can bring in is literal enlightenment in your psychological self. So the 8th house also represents that. So for those Librans that are operating at a relatively high level of consciousness, this could just bring that up to a major new level. That's like somebody doing, having that Kundalini effect happen, and they manifest that whole Kundalini effect going straight up the spine, and they become enlightened. I mean, that's the highest manifestation of enlightenment, and the potential effect of something like this in your 8th house. But the other thing the 8th house represents is the more serious sides of relationships. So for some Librans, this could literally bring in unexpectedly a very deep sexual relationship that's very meaningful for you. So good luck for those Librans that have that coming in for them. So the new moon in Sagittarius nicely sextiles your sign, Libra, and it's in your 3rd house. So this brings to light any new beginnings in terms of a sales or commerce project. If you decide to start writing at this time, this may bring in opportunities to do that. Now, your sign is the sign of the law and diplomacy. So for some Librans, you may actually literally be given the opportunities to write new laws that will affect the future being represented by the new moon in Sagittarius, Sagittarius being the future, but Sagittarius also rules the laws. So there will be some Librans that are literally writing laws or being given opportunities to write new laws for many of us to be affected in the future. I'll have to take a look at that Supreme Court and their astrological charts. Maybe I'm going to do a video on that and see how many Librans, or at least the sign of Libra, being highlighted with especially the Supreme Court. It'll be interesting to take a look at that. Good idea for my video. Anyway, that's something that could happen for you. You could also be just given an opportunity to do things like a diplomacy could come into effect here for you. Maybe you've got to start taking short and long trips because you're in a diplomatic role. Some Librans will fall into that with that new moon, right? It could be, quite simply, that your siblings come into focus more, where you have to communicate more with them for some reason, that there's a new start there, or that you may communicate with some siblings where you decide at this new moon, let's take a trip together, let's take a family reunion and put something together to do a trip overseas. So, Sagittarius does rule foreign lands and foreign people and travel. Yeah. That could also take effect that could be something really to look forward to for some Librans. A wonderful trip with your siblings. So Libra, next year and the next year following, you are going to have eclipses in your sign and then in your opposite sign of Aries. And you, Libra, will be hosting the south nodes of the moon. So really an overarching energy that's going to be affecting most Librans with the south nodes of the moon there, the transiting south nodes, is that you're going to be asked to let go of some things. So what can you do now? You could think now, for instance, before you start entering into 2023 and all the eclipses start happening, what is it that I could potentially voluntarily let go of? And so these can be things that we literally need to let go of in our life, but it can also be internal things inside ourselves that we need to let go of. And the whole thing here is these are probably going to boil down to habits for most Librans. What habits have you maybe taken on even since childhood that maybe you just need to let go of? Or maybe adjust some of those habits in a different way. So those are the kind of things that'll be coming up for most Librans, is what do you need to let go of? And the eclipses, especially in your sign, but as well as in your opposite sign of Aries, will be putting those front and center, saying, now's the time to do that. All right, I will continue, Libra, to feature you throughout the months of next year as you have eclipses in your sign and your opposite sign. The benefit thing that's going on starting at the end of December, right the way through basically mid-May 2023, is you will have Jupiter opposite your sign. And so this really says, in particular, the other. And that may be the other being a marriage partner or business partner, may bring in lots of benefits for you. Excuse me. So look to next year, Libra, to either have a potential partner, maybe a marriage partner, come in for you of benefit, or your existing business partner or marriage partner be of great benefit to you. Take care, Libra. All right, Scorpio. So when we look at this total eclipse, the two signs that are affected, of course, are Taurus, because that's where the eclipse is happening. But because this is a full moon, we know that the sun is in your sign. So there's a direct effect with you, Scorpio. Now, the moon itself is going to be opposite your sign in Taurus, but the sun is going to be in your sign. So this really puts a focus on your 7th house. So there will be a lot of Scorpios that have a combination of potential things happening to them. The seventh house represents the marriage partner or serious relationship. It represents business partnerships. It represents clients, but it also represents the other. So this could be any other. It could be a lawyer. It could be your financial consultant. It could be your psychologist, your therapist. Any of these things could be highlighted. But more precisely, I would say that your partner is going to be highlighted in some way unexpectedly. So that Uranus and the eclipse is going to be in the partnership house, putting a focus there for you, where you are definitely going to be impacted by something regarding those areas that I've just spoken about that are seventh house related. Now, this could bring in, for those Scorpios open to having a potential life-changing partnership, whether it's business and or marriage, this could bring in a partner for you, for sure. Especially since Jupiter is going to be going into Taurus starting mid-May next year. May could be, for many Scorpios, a month that you get married, for sure. So that could be brought in at this total eclipse, but it can also eclipse out a partner, whether it's a business partner or a marriage partner or both. It's a total eclipse. Uranus is in the mix. It's all going to be unexpected. So either of those things could happen, just to be very transparent. But no, bear this in mind for those that maybe have not so positive things happen to them at this eclipse, that you're going to have Jupiter that's going to be opposite your sign, exerting very beneficial energies in that seventh house. So for those folks that have people leave their life, know that you've got something much better starting mid-May, especially mid-May next year, because you're going to have a full moon, just a full moon in Taurus in May. You're going to have Jupiter there, and you're going to have a wrap-up of a Mercury retrograde happening in May too. So bear that in mind as you experience the full effects of this eclipse. If you have anything around the 16-degree mark, whether it's in Scorpio or in Taurus, you're going to have a direct hit of this, and partnerships will definitely be featured at this time. I've already discussed what that means, and in particular, what kind of partnerships we're speaking about. This could bring for some Scorpios the partnership that will totally transform your life, and that would be a serious marriage partner. So the new moon in Sagittarius is going to be in your second house. And along with the new moon being in there, you're going to have Mercury and Venus also in Sagittarius supporting that new moon. So I would say, certainly for those Scorpios that want to start a new job or get a new source of income, this new moon on the 23rd of November would be an ideal time to either start a new job, to get a new source of income coming in, for sure. You're going to have Mercury and Venus there too. So this is great optimistic communications. Venus represents money potentially. And so this could be new money coming in for you. A new source of income could come in for you. That means a lot for your future security with regards to the money that you make. Because Sagittarius rules the future. This is your kind of future money. That's how I see this. But it could bring into focus a female. So Venus could also represent a female communicating with you. And certainly for those Scorpios that are negotiating, say, a salary, whether in the present job or in a new job, look to females working in a positive, optimistic way in your favor at this time. So if you get a choice between a male and a female to negotiate with, I would go with the female if you can. But this can bring in a new source of income for you for sure. It can also usher in, maybe along with that new income, it ushers in this real feeling inside you of your value, where maybe that new job or the new source of income or an increase in income boosts up your feeling of the value of yourself, Scorpio. And so that's a real positive thing to look forward to with that new moon in Sagittarius. It looks like some new source of income or new increase in income coming your way sometime around that 23rd of November 2022. Please take care of yourself, Scorpio. All right, so that wraps up this video for November 2022. For those folks that are watching this, say, in advance of November, I'm certainly going to be publishing this at the end of October 2022. Know that November is really peppered with surprising, unexpected things coming into your life and leaving your life. But that the latter half of November truly is bringing in this so wonderful, optimistic, inspirational Sagittarian energy that gives us a clear view to our future. That's Sagittarius looking to the future. So remain optimistic even in times of doubt at the beginning of November, potentially. As always, I love doing people's charts. I would say this is an ideal time, November and December, to kick off an understanding of the year ahead for yourself for 2023. So please reach out to me. All my details are below. You can see what you want to do. Contact me by email with your actual birth details, and we can just set up something from there. If you live in San Diego, that's where I live. And so we can meet face-to-face. Otherwise, we do a Zoom meeting, and I record that for you and send it to you, along with a full report and your charts. And of course, the Zoom meeting lasts for about an hour or so, just for those that may be thinking of doing it. That gives you a bit of idea of what I do for you. All right, so we've got December to look forward to. I've already covered that. The big thing about December, of course, is Jupiter will be going into Aries towards the latter part of December. And that's positive new energy going forward, just new energy, because that, of course, is what Aries is all about, is new energy, new roads opening up. Take care of yourself, everybody, and take care of those around you, too. We will talk to you probably next in December in conjunction with, I will be doing my 2023 year ahead. I will try to sandwich that in before the end of the year. Leave your comments and suggestions. I always love hearing from everybody. Bye for now, sending you lots of love. Please take care of yourself.